The goal of this podcast is to help you break in and thrive in advertising and marketing. Welcome back to our brand side segment. Marketing professionals, people that work for one specific brand, those are the folks that we interview on this segment. And today, you're going to learn from Julio D'Alfonso. Julio is the head of creative at DoorDash. What an incredible brand, a brand that's been in the Super Bowl for at least the past 2 years, doing amazing work consistently. How do they do that? Well, we're going to learn from Julio about their internal team, how they're set up for success. We're going to learn how they actually work with external agencies as well. That would be Gut, Quality Meats, and Wieden+Kennedy. And he talks about how he approaches those projects and how the teams integrate, not just the classic relationship of a marketing team telling an agency what to do and calling it a day. No, they infuse and work together. He demystifies the idea that BrandSide positions are a place where creativity goes to die. This is not true today, especially at DoorDash. So a lot of paths will probably unveil for you all as you're looking at your careers. Plenty of advice on how to break into agencies, plenty of advice on how to break into the brand side. Julio offers it all. You're going to want to stay listening because at some point he talks about how you can connect with him in his preferred method. I won't tell you when or what point of the show. You have to listen. Maybe listen to it a couple times because it's really good stuff. So stay tuned for that. And if you're not following us on LinkedIn, please do so. Our LinkedIn, we post a video every day, Monday through Friday, daily news in 60 seconds or less. If you haven't checked it out, those are a great way to nerd up, know the industry, and break in and thrive in it. So follow us on LinkedIn at Breaking and Entering Media. Now on with the show. This is the Breaking and Entering Brand Side Podcast. And as usual, I'm your accomplice, Gino Schellenberger. Kick it, Mikey. All right, Julio D'Alfonso. Did I say that correctly? Julio D'Alfonso, welcome to the Breaking and Entering Advertising Podcast, our brand side edition. So we've interviewed so many agency professionals. Now this segment's purpose is to interview the people that tell agency professionals what to do. And you are head of creative at DoorDash. So thanks for coming. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Wonderful, wonderful. So we're going to talk about you. We're going to talk a little bit about DoorDash, your role as head of creative there, how you broke into all of this, and your best advice for the next generation. How does that sound?
That sounds great. Yeah.
Great.
Let's do it.
So where do you currently live? Let's start there.
I'm here in New York, Williamsburg. I moved from LA last year. It's been almost a year here.
So you've lived in some major cities within the U.S., correct? So I believe you said LA, now New York, and then previously Chicago. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's where I landed from Brazil.
From Brazil. Where'd you live in Brazil?
São Paulo, born and raised.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Which already says, if you're a follower of this show, you know, like Brazilian, Sao Paulo breeds the best creatives, I would say, like some of the best creatives in this industry.
I'm biased. I'm not gonna. If you're saying that, I agree.
I mean, just look at the people in like creative leadership roles, whether it's on the brand side or agency side. Yeah. I mean, we could probably fund a research, and we could do the math there.
Yeah.
So why do you think that is?
It's interesting. I think as a country, Brazil is very creative, overall. So I think in every aspect of, like whether you're talking about music or, cinema, but advertising was like a big part of culture always. It's always been, to the point that, like some ad people, they were famous for the masses, You had Washington Oliveto or Nissan Guanais. There are a bunch of people that are, my mom would know or like anyone would know.
Yeah. They celebrate advertising creatives and at home, and that's probably they're pointing at these people and telling you this is a great career to go down.
Absolutely.
It's not as much today in the US where we're not celebrating advertising as much. Maybe thanks to Mad Men, when that show came out, that was a resurgence as well. That's what got my attention. But my parents never said you got to go right into advertising.
And the other thing too is that Brazil, back in the 80s, 70s, or, like coming up to the 90s, I think it was so concentrated to TV. And there's one like big TV network where, it's almost like the center of culture. So because of that, you would see ads and everyone would see those ads, like imagine having like, obviously, not the same amount of people, but like the eyeballs on Super Bowl, like everyone watching the ads. I think that would happen in Brazil in some way. So a lot of campaigns and ads, they got famous, they got, broke into culture in that way. So people would talk about it, and I think, like the media would be curious to know who these people, who the people behind those ads were.
Right.
I think that's one reason.
That monolith of culture there, but all eyeballs going to like a specific media source is so crucial.
Yeah.
And we're losing that today with all these different channels. So how do brands stay relevant? Do you touch all the channels? Like we'll get into that. And I think knowing defining your role today as head of creative at DoorDash, what does that mean? Is this overlooking the marketing department? Is this looking over like the internal agency? Help me understand this. Help our audience understand this too.
Yeah, for sure. So DoorDash, we're set in a very specific way. I think it's been a developing model. When I joined, it was a little bit different. So we had the in-house studio, Superette, which was, taking some of the assignments in-house. At the same time that we would consult on some assignments that were, developed with agencies, with partner agencies. Cut to now, and I think that the model developed to a way that Superette is at the center of the marketing department, and we oversee everything that we put out in the world, whether that is done in-house, like we have our teams that we develop work internally, or in collaboration with agencies. So in my role, and I share that role with my partner Rafa Segri, we're co-heads of creative. We're overseeing work across all audiences. To that point, like either like developing the work ourselves internally or with the help of those agencies. And the way that we work with agencies is a little bit different than some brands do, which is we are not clients in a way. Well, we were sort of clients, obviously.
Yeah. But how do you approach it?
We're creative partners.
Got it.
So when we get briefed or when we brief them, we collaborate on the idea development. So we're talking amongst ourselves in terms of like what's the the right path, and we develop and we collaborate across all steps until we deliver the work. So it's less about like you do your thing and then come back to us when things are like in a very good shape. But we use each other as a soundboard a little bit more.
Yeah.
So it's almost like as an extension of Superette in a way, depending on the work the project that we work with. So
Gotcha.
it's been great.
So you're at the top of that with your partner. What's your partner's name again?
Rafael Segri.
Nice. Rafa.
Yeah.
Incredible. So you two are at the top. Is there one focus? Like, do you have like an art background? Does he have a copywriting background?
I have a copywriting background, and he's an art director by trade.
So it's like
it's
kind of like a GCD role, like CCO role. Like just trying to translate this so how I understand, which is agency life.
That's
so it's
exactly
like a little
right.
agency then.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then you have like full-time designated like copywriters, art directors, like kind of within like specialties within your little system here.
Yeah, we have a lot of people actually. Like I think we're coming up to 40 now.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
That's a lot of humans. That's a lot of souls that you're supporting.
Yeah, a lot of like a bunch of talented folks, and we have like different pods. We have obviously the conceptual creatives that we work on the assignments, but then we have an editorial, a brand voice team with like really talented writers, and a design team as well, and we have a growth pod. So the way it works is a little bit different than agencies because we brought a lot of those capabilities in-house. So we operate in a way that we develop end to end. So when we have a campaign, we are not only thinking about like the top funnel assets, like the things that are splashier.
Right.
We just see how it behaves throughout the funnel. So that way, because we have like these different capabilities, we're able to each focus on their own remit. But at the same time, like delivering something really coherent across the funnel, which proves to be a success for us in terms of like the the business results that we're achieving. So it's been great.
It sounds like it's set up for success there. So can you give me an example of how DoorDash would just probably stay internal, like no agency support? Like what would be an assignment, a deliverable, a campaign, something that you guys are like, we'll handle this. We can rock with this.
Yeah. So it's almost like we get all the assignments, just like even going a little bit before that.
Yeah.
We get the assignments, we see the work that is coming up, in the near future. And then we decide whether we keep that in-house because we have the capabilities or we have the bandwidth.
Yep.
Or we engage an agency partner because they have, the set of skills that we're looking for in that particular project. And then we decide if we're engaging them or if we're keeping in-house. I can tell you like about the projects that we're taking in-house lately. For instance, DashPass, which is our subscription service. Mm-hmm. We've been making in-house work for DashPass for a long time now. And it works the same way that an agency works.
Yeah.
We have our project, we have project managers, we develop the brief, we apply strategy to it, we challenge, we get data just to make sure that we have like a path. And then we have our creatives to develop the work, and then like producers. Sometimes we engage freelance producers just so we can make the work. But it's very much like an agency. There's not much difference from that part.
In that scenario, then who is the client? Is it you? Is it the marketing team? Who is it? The C-suite? Like who are you reporting to? Who does it all go through?
That's a good question because it changed. Before we had our clients internally. Kofi, our CMO, he rebuilt the marketing department in a way that we have now people focus on their own remit. So right now we are the approvers of the creative work, and we develop and we approve it. Yep. Obviously with our brand of creative, VP of brand and creative, Rinaldo. He's the final approver on most of the projects. And then the integrated marketing, which is what we call, that part of the department, is in charge of sourcing data, getting the brief right, seeing what's the goal, the business goal that we need to achieve. And then once we land on an idea, they are able to just run with it and just execute it. Just think about how can we execute across the funnel. Also how do you involve product into the equation, just to make sure that we have this experience that is holistic.
Yeah. Can we run through a couple examples then? So you said DashPass was internal. Now we got to open it up to when you bring on agencies.
Yeah.
Because that's where we get excited, especially. So you identify an assignment and you look at the bandwidth. It's a big project. Obviously, big game, SB, you're going to need an agency to help probably with that. Mm-hmm. That's a no-brainer. So you identify an assignment that's bringing on an agency. What's next? Do you tap into your roster? Do you potentially open up an RFP for brand new agencies? Run me through the steps. You identify you're going to need some support here.
Yeah. Well, we have 3 agencies in our roster that we love and that we trust on them.
Sure.
And they are complementary in their own skills. So we have Gut Los Angeles. We have Quality Meats from Chicago.
Yep.
And then we have Wieden+Kennedy Portland.
Those are titans. Great. You got the small shop, independent small. You got just a creative boutique, I would say, and then you got the classic.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And just identifying that assignment, that project, and then just seeing what's the capabilities that we're looking for in that said project, and then we just bring them in. And it, as I said, it's a great process of collaboration. You lose track of who's in each side, which is, to me, that's the testament of creative collaboration. There's not anyone defending each side, so it's just you're just coming up with the work.
Right. So then how does your role evolve when there is an external partner? Are you more so managing, a little bit, do you get less into the work just naturally, overseeing it? How does it affect you and your position as head of creative at DoorDash?
Yeah, so I'm responsible for the creative output. Mm-hmm. So when we're collaborating with those agencies, I act as the CCO of that project in a way. So we collaborate with with the leadership on that project, and then seeing the ideas and then shaping the ideas, and like being also like the intermediate between us, the brand and the agency, just to see where are the things that need improvement, and then we shape the work in that way. But I'm pretty much in charge of like the delivering that creative product, because
I'm curious because I feel like most clients don't have this kind of robust system and a person like you in place that gets involved. How are agencies reacting to it? Because there could be, in general, because most agencies have their own built-in CCO, and their own egos and their own ways of working, and then you're coming in as well. Like, obviously you did your pre-homework, you guys did those meetings, and you found the right fit. But do you think this system is a good form for most brands to adopt? And do you think that, like, I don't know, that you guys have like figured out the way to do this?
That's a great question. I think it depends on the partner. It's chemistry, right? Sometimes like a partner is not going to work that way, or is not going to be comfortable working that way. And sometimes they will, and it's going like magic comes out of it. I think we're very choiceful about the partners that we have. So the partners that we have, they understand our model, and it works that way. It works well because they understand it. And obviously we're very upfront about like the way we work, because we recognize how different it can be. Like thinking that we are the traditional clients. We're not that, so it really takes the agencies to understand that for us to collaborate together. Otherwise that would be points of friction.
So is the goal then just better creative output for all of this? Better creative output, is it more efficient? Is it like cost wise? Like what is the rationale for all this system put in place?
I think it's just like consistency of work. Also, like there are things that working BrandSide and just being so close to the business, from data, from taking deep dive into the audiences, you get to know more and you get to understand the brand more. And I think our role is also like bringing agencies into that pool of information, just because I think sometimes you could, I worked agency side for the longest time. You're sometimes only scratching the surface in terms of like who the audience is and what is, important to the business. And I think it gets, like we're seeing some success in understanding the business really well. And then we can guide the work in that way, but never compromising on creative quality. And I think it's great to have like a partner agency that keeps you on track in terms of like, you cannot get too deep. You cannot be disconnected to something that is super simple. Advertising is simple, right? People consume advertising in the surface. But to build something simple, I think you need to get to the bottom of it, So I think just partnering together with agencies help you achieve that, or being in the middle, in the sense of like coming up with something super insightful, based on insight and data and business goals, but also palatable, digestible by the audience.
Totally.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the work real quick. Anything that comes top of mind that you're really proud of, the creative output, the consistency and brand voice, that you can talk about recently that was done with an agency?
Yeah, I mean, there are a number of examples that I'm really proud of. I'll start with work that we developed with Quality Meats. That was a Dash Evergreen. So essentially, we have some growth work, which sounds super boring sometimes for a creative. But we saw an opportunity to do something a little bit more meaningful, and that built the brand. Growth essentially is just like we're trying to acquire Dashers, into the platform. And there's like a unique set of best practices that you need to apply the work, because those things work. You know what I mean? Like in acquiring Dashers, and you have all the data to prove it. But that was the work that we've been pumping out was subpar. It was not really being insightful or creative, and we just saw an opportunity there. So for the almost like 2 years now, but I would say like last year was like pivotal in that change, because we got a little bit more investment to develop high quality work, and also in the heels of like our platform being launched, Your Door to More, we needed to develop work for Dashers that articulated that thought. What does Your Door to More mean? to the audience. So we took that as an opportunity. So there's a lot of like specific reasons to believe that you need to promote. Like as I said, like the best practices, brand needs to be included in the first 5 seconds and all that. But then with Quality Meats, we developed work that we're really proud of. So we developed a campaign that has 3 films that perform really, really well. Good. And the creative quality of it is like, it's unmatched to what we've done before. So proving that quality and creative and storytelling and narrative works even on performance, assets, not only just brand building campaigns. So that's one that I'm really proud of. We develop a lot of work we got for occasions. So recently we launched a campaign for Valentine's Day.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, that was essentially we were saying that threesomes are available on DoorDash.
Okay. Jack's interested now.
Yeah. So
we caught Jack's attention. Yeah.
And that was like a teaser. Just like, why? What are you saying? Are threesomes available on DoorDash? And that was just like a tease to then reveal that the threesomes that we're talking about are just like bundles of 3 products that could spice things up in your relationship. So that was a fun one. Selling flowers. We're already seeing like great results.
Yeah, that'll get attention for sure.
Yeah.
I feel like Gut's like really good at that, like the brand activations, like those moments, those template moments.
Yeah, so, they're good.
So it's like figuring out like also like the right project for the right agency of the 3 that you have right now.
Right, exactly, yeah. So yeah, it's historically they've been working on that, occasions, and then lately we did the Super Bowl this year with Wieden and Kennedy.
Who's the actor, Jack? Oh. Come on, say it.
Nate Bargatze.
That's him.
Love that one.
Love saying Nate Bargatze.
We said it a million times on our daily whiteboard videos.
Yeah.
I just love saying that name.
My algorithm is freaking out right now. It just keeps hearing me say Bargatze.
Is that the right way to say it? Bargatze?
I think I'm putting a
we
little
were discussing that
bravado.
on set. Like, I think he says Bargatze. I don't know, like... Maybe. I don't know.
This is Chicago.
We're not great. We're not great with names.
I prefer your accent.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So working with that, and that was with Wieden, and you worked with them last year on Super Bowl as well, I believe.
Yeah, I was not part of that project, but yeah, we've been working with them for almost 2 years, a little bit less than that.
Yep. And how'd that go? You recovered now? Getting all your sleep? Was it a lot of work?
That was a lot of work. And also we faced a lot of challenges, one of them being the LA fires.
Yeah.
So we were in LA to shoot that commercial when things broke out. So it was very challenging because, obviously we had to change our plans and then postpone the shoot. And obviously the Super Bowl date doesn't change, It doesn't accommodate for those kind of things. So we had to do a lot of it was great to work with Wieden to just problem solve, so the work that you saw on TV, it was a little bit different than the work that we were shooting the first time.
Sure.
Even locations were not available anymore. We were lucky to have Nate still to shoot on a later date. VFX, deadlines, they don't change as well. So we had to improvise on, changing some scenes and just making sure that, the spot is still feasible. And that's when, the collaboration comes in, that you really need to, gather and just find the best solution, the best creative solution, and not just wait to see what the agency is bringing in, because there was no time for that. But it was fun. We loved it. Obviously there was, after the work from last year, which was groundbreaking, right? The way that we hacked Super Bowl in a way, or we made more than just a film. This year the intention was different, the business goal was different, so we went with a more traditional route. But we are happy with the result. It was fun. We're seeing some good results as well.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Let's get into advice then now. Mm-hmm. So I want to understand, the name of this show is Breaking and Entering. Usually we ask how you broke into advertising. I know that you have agency experience. I think we'd be foolish not to just mention some of these that I'm looking on your LinkedIn here. starting off as a creative intern at BBH, is that correct? And
Yeah.
then you got some time at Fallon in Sao Paulo. You know, you're a copywriter track, shooting up that rank there. Where I see here some other agencies like Leo Burnett Brazil, Y&R. The show goes on. And then when do you get to the U.S.? Is this Leo Chicago, as I'm looking correctly?
Yeah,
Got
that
it.
was my first stop.
Got it.
That
So
was
tell me about that transition real quick.
for sure.
Yeah.
That was 10 years ago, and it was a time in my career in Brazil that I wanted to explore.
Yeah.
I wanted to work abroad and have that experience. And then I remember reading an article from Eric Rosa. He's a celebrated creative in Brazil. He has an international career, and we have our creative club in Brazil.
Yep.
So he posted an article there just saying like, and that was a time where Brazilians were very interested in, like going overseas and having that experience. And I remember just reading that article where he was just like giving like steps in how, if you want to work abroad, here's what you should be doing. And one of the steps was like, go after the agencies that you would love to work at, add the recruiters that work there, and just reach out, and just say hi, just, say that you want to present your work, and so on and so forth. And that's what we did, like me and my partner at that time. We started adding some people on LinkedIn.
Golden.
And it was interesting because it was one day that we did that, and we didn't send any messages. We just added some people on LinkedIn. And the next day I received an email from a recruiter from Leo Burnett Chicago saying, hello from Chicago. I was like, what is this? And then as I opened the email, I saw that there was an opening for an ACD writer in their team. And she saw my book and she liked my book. And she asked if I was interested in talking. So it was very, I don't know, being at the right place at the right time. Because,
yeah, but your work probably preceded you. Like the fact that your book was good, you worked hard.
Yeah.
You probably had that quality in there. So connecting, they'll find you if you work really hard, especially in the creative roles.
Yeah.
Like your portfolio will speak for yourself. Like,
absolutely.
And then they meet you, and then they obviously like you.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. But putting it out there, reading those steps from that writer, that influencer at the time, was so beneficial.
It was. And I think it speaks to being proactive a little bit, I think, sure, you're completely right. Like, you need to have the work for like for the opportunities to show up. But I at that time was proactive in going after something that I wanted, and it paid off, Obviously it sounds, that it fell on my lap in a way. But yeah, it's like an evolution of, like years working in advertising that can pay off at some point. So yeah, I started, talking to the recruiter, and the opportunity sounded great, and it kept, becoming more and more interesting. And then I took the leap and went to Chicago.
How much deep dish pizza did you eat?
I'm not the biggest fan, I have to say, of deep dish. I know that you're from there.
Yeah,
Don't take it personally.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. I do like the deep dish, but that's all right. And then you stayed there for a little bit. So that was your foray into the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
And then I see that you made your way to BBDO as a creative director. You went from Chicago to L.A. You probably got tired of the cold there.
Right.
And another great agency. So tell me now, when does the shift happen? How does this happen? Going from agency life to BrandSide life, which we kind of can do air quotes around BrandSide life because it's not traditional BrandSide life. I would say.
That was around. That was 2022. I've been working in agencies in the country for almost like 8 years, or around that time. Yeah. I was just interested in, like I was looking for something different as well. I've been working at BBDO for almost 4 years at that point. Great agency, great people, but I was like, what else is out there? And I think I saw an opening on LinkedIn, but I didn't act upon it from DoorDash because it was just a brand that I was interested in as an user. And then Emery, our friend in common, he hit me up saying like, there's a position at DoorDash. We used to work together at Leo Burnett. For a creative director, and that was a creative director for Merchant and Dasher, the two of the audiences that we have. And at first I was a little bit, like cautious of like BrandSide in that sense of like, do I want to go in-house? And, like there was this perception around going in-house, at least from my side.
Yeah.
Maybe it was misinformed. Definitely was. But I think things change over the last few years. But I decided to, have a chat.
Always take the chat.
Always
right?
take the chat.
If there's a position and somebody's interested in you, might as well pick up the phone and say hello.
Yeah, you're meeting people.
Yeah.
At the very least, you're challenging some of your misconceptions,
Totally.
So I had a call with my boss back then, Mariota. She was the one who established the Superette, the creative studio at DoorDash. It was one of the best interviews of my life. She was incredible, inspiring, and that made me interested in hearing more. The other thing too about BrandSide is that the interview process is very different than an agency. An agency is someone who will recruit you, find your book, check if you're not an asshole with like people in common, and make an offer if they're interested. At DoorDash, and I'm assuming other brands as well, it's very different. So there's an interview process where you talk to a bunch of people that you would work with, and then after, I don't know, 8 interviews maybe, then you have an assignment. And at that point, I was so interested and invested in that position that I was like, this is mine. I'm not gonna let it go. So
they got you in. Yeah, they got you in.
They got me in,
Yep.
and I put a lot of effort in the assignment.
Can we talk about what the assignment was?
Yeah,
was it
the
like
assignment.
a creative challenge of some sort, or
Yeah. It was a creative, it was a prompt. I think mine was like, how do you make people shop on small restaurants or go for small restaurants, small businesses around Thanksgiving?
And
that was a
brief. Good brief.
Yeah, it was a good brief. Yeah, it was kind of open-ended. Do what you want with it. And then there was something about, because of the position was like, what's your leadership style? So I built a deck just like with some of my convictions, like some work that I've done in the past. And then just went all in on coming up with like a strategy.
What was your idea? What was your idea for the Thanksgiving?
There were a bunch of like small little ideas, but there was a platform, like a strategic idea and platform that we, I call it, we over deliver. So essentially just like doing things and brand acts that were helping business understand that we do more than just delivery. Like we're sponsoring their growth in a way. So there were like little acts that were activated around Thanksgiving or the next few days, just so people could be encouraged, incentivized to order on DoorDash from small businesses.
That's fun.
Yeah.
That's a good platform.
Yeah.
Hey, that might come to life.
There's always a chance,
Who knows? That's
yeah.
Good. So you did that, you submitted that, and they're like, what would they say? Offer immediately? You got the job? How'd that go?
No, then the way it works at DoorDash, you have a panel, like all the people that interview the candidate, they'll get together and they discuss, like who is the person for this job, and then ultimately you get a chat with Kofi, our CMO.
Mm-hmm.
That was also like a fantastic conversation, super inspiring, one of the most inspiring people that I ever worked with. And then I got the offer. Yeah, but it was a bit of a process.
Golden.
Super interesting.
And that was in 2022-ish?
2022, yeah.
And it's 2025 right now, I believe.
Yeah.
So you've been there for a good amount of time.
Yeah.
Feeling good. What's next now? What do you want to do next at DoorDash?
Yeah, I mean, now Rafa and I, we just been elevated to co-heads of creative. That was last year. So right now we're growing our team. We're, like making sure that we're, good to, take all the challenges that we have. We have like a really ambitious group of people in terms of like really aggressive goals for not only for the studio, but for the brand.
Yep.
The brand is growing exponentially, which helps, I think the work, obviously we cannot take all the credit, but I think the work is contributing for that. We're seeing the results. So I think it's just doing more work and showing the utility that DoorDash has in people's lives, whether you're a consumer, a dasher, a merchant, and finding ways that we're not only doing advertising, we're not just communicating with them, but we're actually showing up to them in meaningful ways. We're doing things for them as opposed to just saying things to them. That's the main goal, I think.
And I want two pieces of advice from you.
Yeah.
I want advice for people trying to break into advertising, and then people that are trying to break into marketing, the brand side. Whichever one you want to start with.
I start with advertising. I think it's just like a segment, and then you just go broader.
Let's run it.
I think advertising, if you're a creative, is that the question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you're a creative, I think the things that we look for, are you like a thinker? Can you think and come up with ideas, as opposed to lean into trends or just like get the craft, or like some of those things kind of hide a little bit of like the lack of ideas. Sometimes we see it, unfortunately, like there's some portfolios that are not, you cannot see substance. Obviously it's really difficult in the beginning, and you're not required to do that in the beginning. I think in the beginning you just need to show that you have like some daring ideas, like some concepts that can be shaped, that can be crafted, but like the ideas themselves,
So important.
Yeah.
So important. Like we have a creative competition called the Crowbar Awards, and like professors and like students across the country, they're asking like, how do you win this thing? And they're like, is it the research, and is it the craft element? I go, neither. Like get to come up with good ideas.
Yeah.
Like obviously all those things are important, but the idea and the concepting is what all of our judges, everybody that's involved, is looking for.
And you're supposed to be fearless at that stage in your career, if you're getting in. So just have some ideas, things that get you really excited, that you think people are going to talk about. There's always a good filter. And just try to articulate them in the most interesting way possible. It's been a while that I haven't seen like portfolios from like students and all that. I think that has to change, but that's what I would look for. Like if you're looking to be an intern, I think that's the goal. And then obviously as you progress in your career, I think just being a little bit more responsible too. I think that's one advice that I give to people is like, no, don't go for the low hanging fruit, or don't go for the easy path in terms of, oh, this could win awards, or people could talk about this on social. Sure, those things are good, but like, can they actually drive some recognition, some awareness, or whatever the goal is, or can this sell things, or
the business goal.
Yeah,
think about that.
I think that's one thing that we've been lacking in younger talent, is just like knowing that we're still at the service of brands and businesses. So if you're solving business problems with creativity, I think that's the sweet spot,
Totally.
And I think that refers to the other question that you had in terms of entering in BrandSide, or I think both things are very correlated. You just like in the brand side, I think you just need to be a little bit more conscious that you work for a business. So that means that the ideas, they need to drive some sort of like, they need to move the needle in some shape or form.
Yeah.
Sometimes that could be awareness, could be just like an awareness play, recognition for the brand. But sometimes they need to be more hardworking, so even going back to a couple of the examples that I gave in the beginning, like growth films, they need to drive some business goals, like they need to move the needle there, but that can be done with creativity as well. So not shying away from that, I think, is important to stand out, because a lot of like books that we see, they are just like embellishments sometimes,
Right. Understood.
And the last thing I was gonna say is just like the craft of things. I think when I began in advertising, it was a very different landscape, and the work was really like tied to the craft. So if you're a writer, you really need to be really good at headlines, writing headlines, or writing copy, or writing good scripts, or sometimes radio. That sounds ancient right now, but as things evolve, you need to obviously, lean into the ideas always, but you should not forget the craft, like both as a copywriter and art director, because the craft is also at the service of ideas, which are at the service of business driven ideas,
Yeah. I always get nervous when I'm talking to aspiring advertising professionals in the agency side, and they're seniors in college or recent grads, and they go, I could be an art director or a copywriter. I'm like, uh-oh. You probably can't do well in either.
Yeah, some people do.
Very few.
Yeah.
Unicorns. Maybe in Brazil. Like, a couple people, right?
Yeah.
But like that lack of clarity and focus shows me that maybe their craft isn't like super excellent.
Right.
That worries me.
And you can be exploring in the beginning, just like try to find what really excites you. But I think it's good to pick a lane because you can really get deep into it. Like just study the craft.
Yeah.
And get really good at it, or just like know a lot of really good references.
It'll blend in like your years there. Like
absolutely.
A lot of the great like creative directors understand both. Like you have to. At that point, to be a creative director, you have to know both sides of the coin.
And that comes naturally too with like developing work. You got to have a keen eye on, as a writer, on coloring, on VFX, whatever, in the same token that an art director gets really good at dialogue, and all that. So yeah, but it's a good advice to focus on something in the beginning.
Well, amazing. How can people reach out, say hello to you, or find out more about DoorDash? What's the best way?
Yeah, I think you can add me on LinkedIn. We can start a conversation there. We're always looking, always looking for people, always interested in getting to know more people, and also like to explain our model. I think it's something that is useful because when I began in advertising, I think going in-house was not really a possibility to do good work. And that changed dramatically, right? Like you have so many really, really good in-house studios doing like some of the best work out there, going, into the biggest stages. I don't know, the Super Bowl, I saw so many spots created by in-house agencies. They're showing up in advertising shows, like in culture. You think about, I don't know, Liquid Death or Duolingo. Like there's so many really good examples of work being done in-house that I'm excited to be one of those voices explaining to people, or just like especially with young talent, because that is a viable possibility for them to start their career and to do the work that they're looking to make.
You think you can start your career?
Absolutely.
Interesting.
It all depends on, if the brand allows that sort of mentorship. Sometimes like DoorDash.
I would imagine like they don't want to train. Like they need somebody that has agency experience to come in and rock and roll, understand the brand, and then execute. That's my preconceived notion.
I think you might be right, because it's our case a little bit. Like we usually have more senior people working.
But who knows? There's probably internships and stuff grows on.
Hopefully, as we grow our team, as we have like more bandwidth to mentor as well, I think that should definitely be a possibility. Yeah,
but the idea that you can break into BrandSide and not sacrifice the creativity. That was always the thing. Like BrandSide, ideas go to die, or like you just get the comfy salary, and like it's not the case.
And please the client.
Yeah,
that's not the case at all.
Yeah,
I think you get to work with like really ambitious people, accomplished. A lot of people, going from an advertising agency's background to in-house. So you're seeing like really talented senior professionals working in those places. So if they are being hired, that's a good sign that the place will pump out some good work.
Check out the people, see where they've worked.
Yeah.
Who's at the leadership, who's who's going to be your boss, and see their experience, and then look at their work.
Yeah. That's always telling.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, thank you for coming on, sir. Julio, this has been fantastic. Hopefully we can stay in touch, and we'll be in touch and see all the amazing stuff that DoorDash is doing.
Absolutely.
In the near future.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Wonderful.